Good morning from the United States Sports Academy in Daphne, Alabama. I'm Dr. Arthur Ogden, and this is Sports Talk. Every Wednesday morning at this time, we have members of our faculty and staff who are experts in certain fields of sport discuss with us some of the important and pertinent issues in the world of sport. And we want to thank those of you who have been sending in suggestions. As a matter of fact, the program we're doing this morning came from a suggestion from one of you. And if you have a suggestion, please send it to sportstalk@ussa.edu. That's sportstalk@ussa.edu. A lot of you fans out there are not all that familiar with soccer, but it is a much larger sport in the international scene than anything we have here in the United States. Some of you may know that this summer, Brazil is hosting the FIFA World Cup. But like so many other sport organizations, they will plan their world competition as the FIFA World Cup years in advance. In 2010, the FIFA committee awarded the 2018 FIFA World Cup to Russia and the 2022 World Cup to Qatar, one of the Arab Emirates. Since that time, there's been a great deal of controversy. As a matter of fact, this FIFA controversy seems like to be a regular fashion. They seem to have controversies like we have flies on a 4th of July barbecue. And the latest has to do with Qatar, or Qatar, however you wish to pronounce it, winning the host bid for the 2022 FIFA World Cup. It was discovered that one of the very wealthy emirs, Mohammed bin Hammam, bribed members of the governing board, members of the voting committees, to vote Qatar as the 2022 host for FIFA. Now, the vote was in 2010. And according to the ethics committee, they had been investigating it since 2011, and their results, or their conclusions, are supposed to come out in a meeting on June 9th. That's supposed to finish all of this investigation. In the meantime, the Sunday Times of London has revealed, just in the last couple of days, that it has received millions of secret documents. Now, when you think about millions, you're probably thinking about a room full of reams and reams of emails and such. But nonetheless, exaggeration accepted, there's a real problem. There's a real problem. But among the enticements that bin Hammam is supposed to have offered, among others, trade deals with many of the officials and countries who were eligible to vote, including a gas deal with the country of Thailand. He offered car dealerships to the FIFA members. He discussed internships and jobs for family members of some FIFA members. And overall, he doled out something like $5 million to possible voters. Most of the voters for the Qatar bid came from African and Caribbean nations, more than 30 in all. It's been reported they were each given up to $200,000 in cash for their votes. But it's not only the Caribbean and African nations involved. The French were involved also. Michel Platini, who was previously a leading expert and a leading executive with French FIFA, and was the president of the UEFA, which is the European branch of FIFA, reportedly met in private with bin Hammam, after which he voted for Qatar to receive the 2022 bid. There probably will be more people involved. Most recently, however, there have been calls for a revote in light of all these allegations. If there is a revote, the U.S., Australia, and Japan could be in the most advantageous positions to win the bid. The U.S. came in second in the original balloting, and Australia was rather eliminated because it only received one vote. Our panel this morning consists of Dr. Fred Cromartie, who is very, very familiar with international sport and is our director of doctoral study, and Dr. Bill Steffen, who is previously the soccer coach at the University of Oregon, and he is our chair of sports coaching, and he understands FIFA, I know, better than I do, and maybe better than the rest of us. So I'm going to start with Coach Steffen. Bill, what's going on with FIFA?
Well, it's typical standard operating procedure for a lot of these kind of situations. People's votes were allegedly bought, and that's not a surprise for any of the USOC and the FIFA. You know, when these sites are awarded, there is a lot of money to be made, but also a lot of money to be made by the host site, but also by the people that end up selecting the host site. Jack Warner, who is the CONCACAF, which is the North American Federation or North American site, was just, he's been in a lot of controversy. He's just supposedly got, you know, as soon as Qatar won the bid, he got 1.2 million. His son got $1 million. There's been a whole lot of this that goes on, and again, it's no real surprise. It's just that it's one of these things. As the time comes, can we actually get away from, you know, all of the you know, purchasing of votes for these sites?
Yeah, well, I know that you and I have been in the Middle East, and they've got a phrase for that kind of practice, right?
Yes, they do. And bashish, well, it's the price of doing business. It's not just in the Middle East. It's in a lot of various parts of the world in that. And it's understandable why they have implicated the African nations and the Caribbean nations, because they believe in that concept as well. But let's go back to the first question. I think one of the things that we can learn, and FIFA needs to learn, is we do have an example of how it is that we can get down to the, you know, the brass tacks, and is there hard evidence against these allegations? And that let's go all the way back to the 2002 Winter Olympics, Salt Lake City. What did we do when we found out that bribes were paid for that? We followed the money. And these organizations are in the same position to bring in the best possible investigators that they possibly can to follow the money. The money leads directly to the people that are involved. Once you zero in on that, it's no longer an allegation. It's the absolute truth. Money's in hand. So, you know, again, we also have to understand here in the United States that the greasing of palms, so to speak, to get the ear of somebody for a business transaction transpires. And let's look at it for what it really is. Some people actually believe in that, and in some form or fashion, we see it play out in different sectors here in the United States too. We do.
I know, and that's really unfortunate. We won't go to Washington, D.C.
Oh, boy, we won't.
Hey, Bill, how does Sepp Blatter's president, past president, FIFA, how does he fit into all this?
Blatter was in charge of the whole, you know, voting process. He's the, you know, he's in charge of FIFA. And this is one of the things that I think that he should have thought out a little bit more clear, because, again, the World Cup is the biggest sporting event in the world, and at this point he's going to award it to Qatar, which is, you know, obviously very heated in the summer. It just kind of made sense, but unfortunately, as you alluded to, a lot of money went into the purchasing of the votes and so on. There's been some conjecture, oh, well, we'll just have the World Cup in the winter when it's going to be cooler. Well, the problem is then, you know, that now is going to push, in effect, the professional leagues throughout the world, and there's no way for the European, you know, leagues to push or to allow for a break to have the World Cup, because then that pushes their leagues to completion in then July, and they just start up their next season in August, so they would have no break. So there's, it just cascades in terms of what's going to happen in terms of, you know, the implications or the future of how this thing is going to be affected.
Yeah, what are the consequences? You know what puzzles me, guys, is this. This happened in 2010. And we're supposed to have a report come out on June 9th of 2014. That's halfway through. That's almost 4.5 years. What's taking so long? Why? What is taking so long? Is it? Are they that surreptitious? Are they that sneaky? And finally, the Sunday Times of London has to come out with it. The Guardian didn't even come out with it first, which is kind of surprising. It was the London Sunday Times.
I think it's a situation where you've got some all-powerful people running a mega sporting venue that's worldwide in different federations and that, and they think they're untouchable. They do I'm sure that right now we would call it obstruction of justice. They're doing everything that they possibly can to keep these key figures out of the limelight and not be implicated, and that's part of it. Is let's just cooperate to the bare minimum.
I think part of it is also that the Olympics is kind of like a self-standing event, whereas the World Cup, when it starts to now push in terms of other leagues, well, those leagues have some weight. So now there was more than one boat in the ocean, so to speak.
Yeah, what I find interesting, though, about this whole thing, the New York Daily News had some opportunity, people are writing in comments, and John Mazur wrote, the people who got the bribes are investigating if the bribes were given. Is that something about right? I mean, what a strange way to do business. So here we are.
Again, Washington.
Here we are looking to try to raise the level of participation and interest in soccer for our country, and this kind of thing happens. But my next question is, can the U.S. really win this bid? Should it be up for a revote? Bill, do you think we can?
Yeah, I think we can. I think the U.S. did a great job when they previously hosted it in '94, and the U.S. has a lot of the infrastructure in place. It's a desired site. A lot of people want to come to the U.S. So I think that the U.S. would be a viable option. Australia, although it came in poorer in the voting,
right,
Australia would appease FIFA in some regards because they like to award it to different federations, and Asia not being one of the premier sites, but giving it to Asia would be a nice thing to do. Australia, from meteorologically, is going to be a cooler situation, so you're not going to have the same thing there. I'm not as familiar with Australia's ability to host an event of this magnitude on short notice, but they have hosted Olympics, so they are familiar with these kind of procedures.
You were to send the Olympics, weren't
Yes.
you? So we know that. So what are we to think? What are we dyed-in-the-wool football playing Americans? What are we to think of all of this? Fred?
Well, I think on the greater stage of it, in terms of the overall understanding of corruption, I think we understand that there is some corruption and bribery that is probably taking place. Otherwise, we don't raise these allegations. Somebody's got something to prove something. But do we take it as something that is critical for us to follow? And that, if you're not a real soccer fan or a true football fan, then no, we won't. But if we are true football fans, true fans of sport in general, and make a living out of this, yeah, we're going to follow it because it does have direct implications in regard to the rest of these mega sporting events. Again, it goes all the way back to the Olympics. There's been reports of bribery and scandals for Sochi, and they are associated with the awarding of the World Cup games. They get it in 2018, so it just continues to follow us. There's been a history of this, so to speak.
Bill, this is your sport. Soccer is, you dyed-in-the-wool soccer. What does this say? What are the consequences for FIFA? And also, what message does this give to the rest of the world that FIFA is even capable of holding something that has any type of integrity for the sport of football, soccer?
I don't think there's any surprise. I don't think any soccer fans are surprised by this. I think they're just going to say, okay, well, where are we going to go from here? And I think it's hopefully what it is just at some point we do start to recognize, look, this is something that needed to be addressed in the Olympics, in all sports, in all of politics, and so forth. And hopefully they do go about, trying to address it. I think that at some point, I think there will be a revote, and I think Qatar will be left out because not only are they having problems with this corruption, but for a whole other topic we could talk about, the number of workers that have died in Qatar in terms of trying to get their infrastructure up to date.
And it is a beautiful structure they're planning to build. I mean, it's a beautiful structure. I was just looking at the pictures of it. I mean, it's phenomenal. It really is.
But there are reports that it's a substandard structure.
Well,
maybe,
but on paper,
close to 1,000 workers have died.
Yeah. But on paper, it looks good. Anyway,
well, let's look at this before we close out. I think that outside of Hamam doing what he did, Qatar never would have been even considered. Right. To be honest with you.
Yeah, Ben Hamam is. I'm wondering this too, guys. If Carter loses out, does he go back and try to recollect his money? Hey, listen, thank you all for joining us on Sports Talk here from the United States Sports Academy. I'm Dr. Arthur Ogden, and for Bill, Stephan, and for Fred Cromartie, we want to thank you for joining us. Hope to see you next week, and please send in those suggestions to sportstalk@ussa.edu. Have a great day.